Welcome. The topic we will be discussing in this lecture is priority scheduling. So we are discussing the various CPU scheduling algorithms. So in the previous classes we have discussed the FCFS scheduling algorithm, first come first serve scheduling algorithm. Followed by that we have discussed SJF scheduling algorithm, shortest job first scheduling algorithm, its preemptive and non-preemptive version. The preemptive version of SJF is also called as shortest remaining time first algorithm. We have also discussed a few problems on shortest job first algorithm under preemptive case and also under non-preemptive cases. So in today's lecture, we'll be concentrating on another type of scheduling algorithm, which is called as priority scheduling algorithm. Actually, if you see, the shortest job first algorithm can also be called as a special form of priority scheduling algorithm. Shortest job first can be treated as a special form of priority scheduling algorithm because in shortest job first we pick the job with the shortest CPU burst for execution. Okay, so here you can say that in the shortest job first, the priority is nothing but the CPU burst with the shortest time will have the highest priority. Or you can say that the priority is inversely proportional to the CPU burst. That is, the job which has the least CPU burst will be given the higher priority. Okay, so that is also one form of priority scheduling algorithm. Okay, so in priority scheduling algorithm, for every job or for every process, a number will be associated with every process, and that number is called as a priority number. And that number is called as the priority number. Okay. The lower the priority number, the lower the number, the higher the priority. The lower the number, the higher the priority. That is, if the number associated, if the priority number associated with a particular process is less, then that means it has the highest priority. Okay, for example, if you have two process P1 and P2 with priority 1 and 5 respectively, that is priority number 1 for process P1 and 5 for process P2, then it means that process 1 has the highest priority than process 2. Okay, so the least the number, the more the priority. And this priority scheduling algorithm can work in two modes. It can work either in preemptive mode or in non-preemptive mode. So you know what is preemptive, what is non-preemptive. In non-preemptive mode, if a process gets the CPU, then it will keep holding the CPU until either it terminates or it gets into IO wait. Whereas in a preemptive mode, even if a process is currently using the CPU and at this particular time, if a new process joins the ready queue with a higher priority, then that new process will preempt the currently executing process. Okay, so that is what preemptive is. Okay, and so as we already said, SJF is a actually it is a special form of priority scheduling algorithm where the priority is nothing but the CPU burst, and the SJF priority is inversely proportional to the CPU burst time. So is there any drawback with priority scheduling algorithm? Yes. So there is a drawback with priority scheduling algorithm, and that drawback is called as starvation. So what is starvation? Starvation means that the process with the lower priority, the process with the lower priority may not get the CPU for a long period of time, or it may not get at all throughout its lifetime. So this problem is called as starvation. Okay, so assume that the system contains good number of jobs and always some higher priority job is keep on coming to the system. Then the priority scheduling algorithm, especially if it is using preemptive scheduling, then what happens in the sense always it takes the job with the highest priority. That is one with which is having the smallest number, smallest priority number, and that job will be getting executed. So in that process, what happens? The job or the process with the lower priority may not get the CPU at all, and that may happen. It may happen for several hours or even for several days. So such problem is called as starvation. So how to avoid starvation? Starvation can be avoided by using a technique called aging. So what is aging? Aging in the sense as the time increases for a processor, for a process in the ready queue, that is, if a process is staying in the ready queue for more amount of time, then it means that it is getting aging, it is getting aged. Okay, so as the age of the process increases, as the age of the process increases, its priority also should be increased. Okay, as the age of the process increases, its priority also should be increased, so that over a period of time, this job which is initially joined the ready queue with a lesser priority, as time increases, its priority will increase. So there is a highly likely that it is highly likely that over a period of time this process will get the processor, and eventually it will get executed, and it will leave the cycle. Okay, say for example the priority number ranges from 0 to 127. Okay, so priority number ranges from 0 to 127. So 0 is the highest priority, that is the least the number, the higher the priority, and 127 is the lowest priority. 127 is the lowest priority. Now assume that there is a job, there is a process P, let us say P7, and this particular P7 process is entering the ready queue with the priority value of 127. Its priority value is 127. That's the lowest priority. So then what will happen? It will be in the ready queue, and it may not get the CPU. It will not at all get the CPU. And other processes, new processes will be coming with a better priority value. So they will be getting the CPU, and this process may not get the CPU for a longer period of time, and this problem is called a starvation. How starvation can be resolved? It can be resolved by a technique called as aging. That is, as the time duration during which a process stays in the ready queue, if it increases, then the priority will also increase. Okay. Say for example, if a process is staying in the ready queue for 1 hour, then its priority will increase, will improve by one. So in this case, it will reduce by one. So after 1 hour, its priority will become 126. Okay. After 2 hours, its priority will become 125. Like that, it goes on. So after 24 hours, okay, after 24 hours, its priority will become 123. Its priority will become 123. So after like that, what happens in the sense, the priority will keep on improve. At one point, the priority may become 10 or 9, or it may still reduce. And by that time, if there are no process with higher priority, obviously this process will get executed. So this is how the problem of aging can be resolved in priority scheduling. Okay, so this is the drawback, and this is how the drawback can be rectified. Okay, this same drawback can also happen with shortest job first algorithm. Okay, if there is a job with a longer duration, then it will be keep on waiting until it will be keep on waiting, because if there are many processes coming with shorter duration, then that will be getting executed, and this process may not get executed. Okay, fine. Now let us discuss priority scheduling with an example. So consider this case. So let us assume here we are going to discuss this case under non-preemptive scheduling. Okay, under non-preemptive scheduling using priority scheduling. Okay, it is a non-preemptive. Let us assume it is a non-preemptive mode. Okay, that is once the CPU, once the process gets the CPU, it is going to use it till the process terminates or you get into IO wait. So there are 5 processes: P1, P2, P3, P4, and P5, and these are the burst time required by each process, and these are the priority. So the lower the priority, the lower the number, the higher the priority. Okay, so so P2 has the highest priority. Okay, P2 has the highest priority, and then P5 has the next highest priority, okay, and then P1 has the next highest priority, and then P3, and at last P4. So this is the order in which it is going to execute. That is first P1 will execute, and then P5 will execute, and then P1 will execute, then P3, and then P4. Okay, so how will the Gantt chart will look like in this case? So in this case, how will you draw the Gantt chart? So the Gantt chart will be at time 0, CPU will be given to the process P2, because P2 has the highest priority, and P2's burst time is 1 millisecond. So it will just execute only for 1 millisecond and it completes. So P2 is finished. Then the processor will be given to P5, because that is the next highest priority. So P5 will execute for another 2 milliseconds. Sorry, P5's burst time is 5 milliseconds. So it will execute for 5 milliseconds, that is 1 millisecond to 1 plus 5, that is 6th millisecond. Up to 6th millisecond it will execute, then it is finished. Then the next highest priority is process 1. So then process 1 will execute for next 10 milliseconds. So process 1 will execute for next 10 millisecond, that is 6th millisecond to 16th millisecond it will execute. Okay, then it is finished. Then the control processor will be given to process P3, and P3 burst time is 2 milliseconds. It is 2 milliseconds, so it will execute for 16th millisecond to 18th millisecond. Okay, then the control and then the next process, only process which is left is process 5, process 4, and process 4 will get the CPU and it will execute for 1 millisecond. Its CPU burst is 1 millisecond, so by 19th millisecond it will complete. So this is how the Gantt chart will look like. Okay, so first it is P2 up to 1 millisecond, then P5 up to 6 millisecond, then P1 up to 16 millisecond, then P3 up to 18, and P4 up to 19th millisecond. So from this now you can calculate the average waiting time and the average turnaround time. So average waiting time is 8.2 millisecond and average turnaround time is 12 millisecond. Here we assume that all processes arrive at time T0, because no specific time is given at which time each process arrive. It was not given. So the starting time is assumed as 0. So the starting time is assumed for all the processes 0. So for calculating turnaround time is calculated as in completing time minus starting time. Okay, so here for all process starting time will be considered as 0. So P1 completes at 16th millisecond. 16 minus 0 is 0. P2 completes at first millisecond. 1 minus 0 is 1. P3 completes at 18 milliseconds, so it's 18. P4 completes at 19 milliseconds, so it is 19. And P5 completes at 6 milliseconds, so 6 minus 0 is 6. So by 5, which is 12 milliseconds. Okay. From this, you can calculate the average waiting time. So average waiting time, so waiting time of individual process is nothing but turnaround time minus burst time. Turnaround time minus burst time. Okay. So turnaround time for P1 is 16. Its burst time is 10. So 16 minus 10 is 6. 6, that is the waiting time for P1. Okay, and for P2, turnaround time is 1. Burst time is 1. So 1 minus 1 is 0. It means it does not have any waiting time. P2 does not have any waiting time. It started at time 0 itself. And P3, its turnaround time is 18 and its burst time is 2. So 18 minus 2 is 16. Its waiting time is 16, and P4 its turnaround time is 19, and its burst time is 1. So 19 minus 1 is 18. Its waiting time is 18. Okay, and P5 its turnaround time is 6. So and its burst time is 5. So 6 minus 5 is 1. Its waiting time is 1. Okay, so you can add all these things and divide it by 5. So that is what you'll get the average waiting time. Okay, so let us discuss one more problem. Consider these processes P1, P2, P3, P4 and P5. Now here the arrival time is also given. So P1, let us assume P1 is arriving at time 0, P2 is arriving at time 1, P3 as time 2, and P4 at time 3, and P5 at time 4. And these are the burst time with respect to each process. And this is the priority. This is the priority. So P4 and P5 is having the same priority. So if there is a tie in the priority, if more than one process has the equal number of priority, then the tie will be broken by following FCFS model. Okay, first come first serve model. That is, whichever the process is first in the ready queue, that will be given the that will first get the CPU. Okay, so here there is a tie between two processes, P4 and P5, both has the same priority number. So who will get the CPU first? In the sense, P4 will get the CPU when their turn comes, right? So this is how the tie got broken. So these are the various, and these are the priority number corresponding with this particular process. Okay, so P4 and P5 has the highest priority, then P3, then P2, and then P1. Now, how will be the Gantt chart will look like in this case? What will be the Gantt chart? But here the arrival time is also given, and here also we are assuming non-preemptive scheduling. Okay, we are not considering preemptive scheduling. Here also we are assuming as non-preemptive scheduling. Okay, so this is also treated as non-preemptive scheduling. Okay, considering non-preemptive scheduling, how will you draw the Gantt chart? Okay, so as it is, as the time is given here, here the arrival time is given, so you have to go with the arrival time. So at time 0, if you see, there is only one process available, that is P1. No other process is available at time 0. Okay, so the CPU will be given obviously to the process P1. So at time 0, P1 will start. Time 0, P1 will start. As it is a non-preemptive scheduling, once the processor is given to P1, it is not going to give up the processor until it completes. And its burst time is 4 milliseconds. So it will complete at 4th millisecond. Okay, it will complete at 4th millisecond. At 4th, so remaining all jobs has arrived by 4th millisecond. Okay, P2 has arrived at 1st millisecond, P3 has arrived at 2nd millisecond, and P4 has arrived at 3rd millisecond, and P5 has arrived at 4th millisecond. So at 4th millisecond, P1 has completed, and by this time the operating system will check the queue, and it finds there are 4 processes. There are 4 processes with different priority number. Now, who will get the CPU first? Who will get the CPU first in this case? So it is P5. So the priority number, the highest priority number is for two processes, P4 and P5. The highest priority number is for two processes, P4 and P5. Uh, as there is a tie, so it will apply FCFS algorithm. So here in the ready queue, at first you have P4. So P4 will get the processor. P4 will get the processor, and it will execute for 2 milliseconds. That is, it will execute from, it will execute for 5 milliseconds. That is, it will execute from 4th millisecond to 9th millisecond. Okay. Then P5 will get the processor. Then P5 will execute for 2 milliseconds. Its burst time is 2 milliseconds. That is, it will execute from 9th millisecond to 11th millisecond. Okay. Then the next higher priority is P3. Then P3 will execute for 1 millisecond. Its burst time is 1 millisecond. That is, it will execute from 11th millisecond to 12th millisecond. Then P4 will execute, then P2 will execute for the remaining, its burst time is 3 millisecond. That is, it will execute from 12th millisecond to, yeah, P3 will execute for remaining 3 milliseconds, that is 12th millisecond to 15th millisecond, it will execute. Okay, so this is how it works. The P0 first works, executes up to 4 milliseconds, then P4 up to 9 millisecond, then P5 up to 11 millisecond, then P3 up to 12 millisecond, and finally it is P2. Yeah, finally P2 up to 15th millisecond. Okay, so now from this, you can, from this you can draw the, you can identify the average waiting time and the average turnaround time. Okay, so this table contains all information like process ID, exit time. So to calculate turnaround time, we need the exit time and the arrival time. So exit time is identified from this Gantt chart. So exit time for P1 is 4, P2 is 15, P3 is 11, P4 is 9, and P5 is 11. Okay, so it is 4, 15, 12, 9, 11. Okay, so that is how you got this value 4, 15, 12, 9, 11. And arrival time is available in this table, and from that we have plotted here, we have dropped those values here. So from this you can calculate the turnaround time. Turnaround time is exit time minus arrival time. So 4 minus 1 is 4, 15 minus 1 is 4, 12 minus 2 is 10, 9 minus 3 is 6, 11 minus 4 is 7. Okay, then we need to calculate waiting time. What is waiting time? Waiting time is turnaround time minus burst time. So this burst time, again, it is available in this table. From here you can pick up 43152. So that's what it is represented here. And from this you can calculate the waiting time. 4 minus 4, 0, 14 minus 3, 11, and so on and so forth. So now from this table you can calculate the average waiting time by adding all these things and dividing by 5, which is 8.2 millisecond, and the average waiting time is 5.2 millisecond. Okay, so this is about this particular problem. Now I want you to do the same problem as a homework. Whatever the problem we have just now discussed, this particular problem, you can take it as a homework, but consider it as a preemptive scheduling. Okay, so considering it as a preemptive scheduling, draw the Gantt chart and identify the average turnaround time and the average waiting time. Okay, fine. Let us stop here. Thank you.